Now we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve some quadratic equations. So if you have something of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then the quadratic formula tells you that the solution is always going to be of the form x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And the great news about this is you can use this whenever you want. So this always works to solve a quadratic equation. Okay, so in this first example, we need to write down a, b, and c. So the coefficient of x squared is 1, so this is a is 1, b is negative 6, and c is equal to 13. And now we just write down x is equal to the opposite of b, so the opposite of negative 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a. And then we simplify. So you get x equals 6 plus or minus 36 minus 52, so 4 times 13 is 52, all over 2. And we can keep simplifying a little bit more. This becomes 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 16, all over 2. And that's equal to, let's see here, 6 over 2 plus or minus, the square root of negative 16 is 4i. So this is 4i over 2. And so we can write that as x equals 3 plus or minus 2i. And that's our final answer. So we have two solutions here, either 3 plus 2i or 3 minus 2i. And now we'll do the second example here. We'll let a be 5, b is 13, c is negative 6, and then we'll have x must be equal to the opposite of 13, so negative 13, plus or minus the square root of 13 squared minus 4 times 5 times negative 6, all over 2 times 5. So that's x equals negative 13 plus or minus 13 squared is 169, and 4 times 5 is 20, 20 times 6 is 120, and because I have a negative and a negative there, it's going to be a positive 20. So it's 169 plus 120 underneath the radical, and then you have a 10 on the bottom. So this is x equals negative 13 plus or minus the square root of 289 over 10. The square root of 289 is actually 17, so this is x equals negative 13 plus or minus 17 over 10. And this is fine for a final answer. You can take it one step further by actually writing out the two different solutions. In the first case, if you have x equals negative 13 minus 17 over 10, then that simplifies nicely. That's negative 30 over 10, which is negative 3. And the other solution is when x equals negative 13 plus 17 over 10, so that's 4/10 or 2/5. So again, another way to write this would be x is either negative 3 or it's 2/5. And sometimes we use these squiggly brackets. I think your online homework system actually uses squiggly brackets to denote a list. So we're saying that the solutions are in this list. They're either negative 3 or 2/5.